German pioneers blew the first mine of the First World War towards the end of 1914. This new threat from below caused increased uneasiness within the ranks of the British infantry while serving in the trenches. So the British began mining on a localised level as early as February 1915, with shafts being sunk into the front line by Royal Engineer Field Companies and skilled infantry. However, it was very quickly apparent that a more organised approach was needed and skilled men in the art of mining required to counter the German threat. What with the advancement of military technology during the war, the expertise and organisation of military mining would eventually come from the civilian world. At the outbreak of the war, British MP and mining engineer John Norton Griffiths had offered his expertise to the War Office, but with expectations of only being a short war, his offer was turned down. All changed in February 1915 when he was given the authority to raise a tunnel company from workers employed by him for the extension of the Manchester sewage system. Norton Griffiths realised that the geology of Manchester was very similar to that of the Flanders, and that the technique known as clay kicking used by miners in the UK could easily be transferred to the front line. From the get-go, it took only 36 hours for the first 18 clay kickers to be transferred to military service. From this small beginning, tunnelling capabilities expanded, reaching their peak in 1916, when around about 25,000 men were employed in the Underground War. The call went out for miners to join the tunnelling operations out on the Western Front. One of them to answer the call was William Hackett, a miner from the South Yorkshire coalfields. William was born on the 11th of June 1873 at Patriot Street in Snetterton near Nottingham to John and Harriet Hackett. He was one of 7 children that was born to the Hacketts. His father, John, was a travelling brewer and did considerable business among the countryside inns of Nottinghamshire and South Yorkshire. William didn't go to school and would remain illiterate throughout his life. At the age of 18, he left his first job in a factory in Nottingham to work in Denby, Maine, a large colliery founded in 1863. On the 16th of April 1900, at Coinsborough Parish Church, he married Alice Tooby, formerly of Morley in Leeds. The couple moved into 22 Cusworth Street, Denby, one of many small terraced houses owned by the colliery. Then in 1901, William was listed as a coal miner's filler, a job which entailed loading pit tubs with coal. Some years later, he moved to Manvers Main Colliery for better pay and for better work. The Hacketts, now a family, left Denby for Mexborough near Doncaster in South Yorkshire. William and Alice, their son Arthur, their daughter Mary, as well as William's mother and father-in-law Thomas and Sarah Tooby, were settled into their new home at 49 Crossgate. William's new job for the colliery was that of making and repairing roads and railways underground, a job he thoroughly enjoyed. However, he wanted to do his bit for his country because the country was at war, so he applied to join the army. However, was turned down 3 times by the recruiters from the York and Lancaster Regiment for being too old. Even on his last attempt, he was told by the medical officer that he had a heart problem, which was devastating news for William. William's luck was about to turn. As I said previously, the call for men to join the new tunnelling companies came William's way when the army were looking for miners to join these new units. So on the 25th of October 1915, William was accepted into the Royal Engineers despite his heart condition. After a fortnight's training at Chatham, followed by a few days' leave, which is well earned, he was then sent to France to join 172 Tunnelling Company. Within a month, he was transferred to 254 Tunnelling Company, who were working on the Western Front at a place called Givenchy-les-Labersy, just north of Lewes. On the morning of the 22nd of June 1916, Sapper William Hackett and 4 other men were driving a tunnel towards the enemy lines. About 1/4 of the way towards the German trenches and at a depth of 35 feet, the gallery that they were digging was roughly 4'3" high and 2'6" wide, and it was still in the early stages of development. The access to the gallery was by a single shaft called the Shaftesbury Shaft. When suddenly at 2:50 a.m, an explosion from a German mine blew in 25 feet of the gallery, cutting the 5 men off from the shaft and safety. On the surface, a rescue party was immediately organised, and after 2 days of digging, an escape hole was formed through the fallen earth and broken timbers, and the tunnellers contacted. William helped 3 of the men to safety. However, with sanctuary beckoning and himself apparently unhurt, he refused to leave until the last man, who was seriously injured, was rescued. The injured man was a 22-year-old Thomas Collins from the 14th Battalion, the Welsh Regiment, the Swansea Pals. William looked at his rescuers and then back at the injured man. He then turned back to the rescuers and said, "I'm a tunneler. I must look after the others first." And with that, he turned back and went back to help Thomas. The rescue party begged for William to get out as the rescue tunnel was beginning to collapse. William refused, knowing that he and young Thomas would never be rescued and that their only means of escape had gone. The rescuers worked on, but were frequently immobilised by German shelling and mortaring of the shaft head itself. Conditions above and below ground now were becoming more and more treacherous by the minute. Eventually the gallery collapsed, entombing both men. And to this very day, both men still lie beneath the fields of Givenchy. For his actions on that day, Sapper William Hackett was awarded the Victoria Cross. His wife accepted the award from King George V on the 29th of November 1916 at Buckingham Palace. And his citation reads somewhat, "For most conspicuous bravery when entombed with 4 others in a gallery owing to an explosion of an enemy mine. After working for 20 hours, a hole was made through the fallen earth and timber, and an outside party was met. Sapper Hackett helped 3 of the men through the hole and could have easily followed, but he refused to leave the 4th, who had been seriously injured, saying, 'I'm a tunneler, I must look after the others first.' Meanwhile, the hole was getting smaller, yet he still refused to leave the injured comrade. Finally, the gallery collapsed, and though the rescue party worked desperately for 4 days, the attempt to reach the 2 men had failed. Sapper Hackett, well knowing the nature and of the sliding earth and the chances against him, deliberately gave his life for his comrade.